May I just begin by thanking you for your presence here in Romania. We've been waiting for you many decades. I grew up by listening to Radio Free Europe and always wanted to see some disciples of Milton Friedman, Margaret Thatcher, and of course Ronald Reagan. It's great to be with you, to be learning from you, and I believe still the hope is with you. And the free countries will have to take guidance from the great masters that you have studied, and now you are sharing the wisdom of their wisdom with us. Then I also want to say hello to the young ones, and of course always quote that famous statement of a former American progressive, rather, president, who said, "Blessed is the youth, for you shall inherit the national debt." It might be soon an international debt or whatever, European debt, but for sure you are the most important ones, those of you who are here and who may cast their vote in 2016 for the first time, for the local elections, for the parliamentary elections. And you Romanians who might behave differently from the Spaniards that have done very poorly with their Podemos, and I'll explain why. My goal today was just to address a perennial question that puzzles the mind of any European. Why is Marxism still popular? I mean, ever since the Communist Manifesto was written, that popularity never seemed to fade away, and the question is why? And with that why, of course, I also ask you a few other questions. Why is that so many of us are so poor? Why is that so many Romanians, Greeks, Spaniards, Portuguese under the age of 25 are unemployed? Why is that we continually support leftist politicians who create scapegoats just in order to give us quick satisfaction and then steal from us? Why is that? Why is that we have 47.9% unemployment in Greece, 47.7% in Spain, 39.8% unemployment in Italy for the young ones? Why is that? Why can't we find, or why do we still find people in their 30s living with their parents in their homes, in the homes of the parents rather than in their own homes, with not enough savings in their bank accounts, allowing them to establish a family of their own? Why is that? Why do we see angry crowds protesting in Madrid, Athens, Bucharest sometimes, always calling for new governmental solutions? And my hypothesis here is that it's because we have never addressed the presence of Marxist professors and teachers in our universities. After all, Barack Obama, is he also Hussein? Yes. Barack Obama has acknowledged in his dreams from my father, whatever title that book had, that he studied under a Marxist professor, and he was really taken by the ideas of Marx in the 60s and the 70s, while others were imprisoned because they brought the ideal of freedom to the Eastern European countries. And of course, you look for a new generation, you look up at the new stars of European politics, and what do you see? Have you heard of Pablo Iglesias Turion? The 35-year-old political science professor. I know a bit of Spanish, and I can tell you that, for instance, his bibliography is full of positive assessments of Lenin's contribution to economic and political doctrines. And he was, of course, a member of the Spanish Communist Party until 1999, and then Comrade Iglesias was elected to the European Parliament as a member of his new party called Podemos. Podemos means we can, and then of course that's an echo of Obama's yes we can. And of course he won together with the other leftist party in Spain the elections, to the point now in the Spanish parliament the left has the majority. Of course, you have the Die Linke Partei in Germany, and then of course you have the problem with the new leader of the Labour Party in Great Britain, Jeremy Corbyn, and then of course you have the Prime Minister of Greece, who made an amazing and a truly astonishing statement for someone who read just a bit of history. He said, Prime Minister Tsipras, known as the Greek Che Guevara, some years ago, said that the communist, I quote here, the communist regimes at least had humanity at the center of their thinking. These are the kind of people we see the European youth being willing to promote and give power to. And the question is why? And my hypothesis today is that we, for too many decades, have neglected the powerful influence of Marxist professors such as Alain Badiou in Paris, Eric Hobsbawm in London, Slavoj Žižek from Ljubljana and everywhere in the world, and Tamás in Budapest. There are just a few names that tell you that these people have mentored generations after the generations and instilled in these generations a sense of hatred for ownership, property, individual freedom, capitalism, competition, and everything that we love. And at some point, these professors have managed to produce such monsters that actually have the audacity to say that communism had humanity at the center of its projects. Is it not just unbelievable, just to think about it? So Marxism is still very popular, and the reason why is probably because Marxism celebrates forgetfulness, celebrates this image of, or should I say, of a cosmic delivery from the hegemonic powers of capitalism. And it gives almost a quasi-spiritual, if not mystical, interpretation of the revolutionary endeavor. You really have to listen to Iglesias and to look at the way in which he mesmerizes his audiences in the Spanish or the European Parliament, and you will get a feeling of what's going on there. And what's going on there is not just a political exercise. It's a spiritual, should I say, kind of experience that has been experienced by the Europeans many decades ago. If you listen to Iglesias, the leader of Podemos, 37 years old, really. If you listen to him and to what he has to say about the class struggle, you will discover that the jargon he's using is not really different from the jargon that Vladimir Ilyich Lenin used in 1917. He calls for larger trade unions, more frequent strikes, and of course, he talks about the great Satan, in a sense, being capitalism and the Wall Street and so on and so forth, in a way in which perhaps some radical Islamist would speak about the great Satan. So that's a very interesting connection there between far left and some of the radical anti-Western voices of the radical Muslim community. But the question is, why so many people still buy it? Why so many young people buy such a rhetoric? And that's a question that we all have to ask. Probably it's because of ignorance. Probably it's because it's much easier to destroy in general, in human terms, to destroy than to create, probably. And also because we in Eastern Europe have not been able, I'm coming close to my final statement, because we in Eastern Europe, we have failed. We in Poland, in Romania and Hungary probably, more than in other countries, we have failed to export our narrative. And I don't know really, Barbara, how many people in Vienna would, for instance, know that the Romanian army has stopped, for instance, communism from being a visible and threatening presence in Budapest in 1919. But this happened. This is our contribution to Western civilization, really. And I don't think that's very well recognized. I don't know whether you know, for instance, that one of our greatest politicians, Olivian, was in charge with keeping order in Vienna at the end of the 19th century, was sentenced to death. And he was an Anglophile, and he was all for the free market. And of course, he died in the Sighet prison in 1952. And he's a great hero. And I'm wondering, who really knows the biography of Olivian? Some people do know the biography of Solzhenitsyn to some extent. But our heroes still are not well known in the West. And that's our failure. And perhaps we should do more in order to convince the general public that we can be proud of our history of resistance against communism and totalitarianism, and not just servile in the way we approach the themes that are constantly provided by the left from Western Europe. So I see that my time is up, but I hope that my questions have been persuasive enough so that we can trigger a conversation later on. Thank you so much.